Hi, Simon. My name's Dale. I'm the owner, well, past owner of the 48 Chevy. And what I thought I would do is make a little video for you to kind of point out some of the tidbits, I call them, things about the car that will help you get acclimated to the car. All right? So just little things to save you some time and a way to pass on some knowledge to you. First of all, this cover, as you can see, the car's covered, and I will be including this in some things that I'm going to send with the car to you. So I've got a box, plastic box, that I'm going to fill with various things, fire extinguisher, an extra hubcap, some other things, and that box will be in the trunk of the car. So you want to be sure and look for that box when you get the car, okay? But like I said, this cover is going to be coming with the car. The other thing I want to point out to you is, you may not be able to see it very well right now, but the car sets very low, and I did that on purpose. I wanted it to have a look of the 50s, where it's low and slightly lower in the rear. But what that has done is it's made it very precarious when you're going down the highway. So I just want to make you aware, you have to be able to avoid roadkill or dead animals in the highway, speed bumps in parking lots. We have a lot of those here in the States. You need to avoid those because you'll drag if you try and go over a speed bump. Also then, of course, any construction, you want to be careful. Any steep entrances or exits from parking lots, you just need to be aware, okay? You won't have any trouble as long as the road's smooth and surfaced very well. You won't have any trouble. But you always have to be aware of the height of the car, all right? Now, the other thing I want to show you, and hopefully you can see this, is these skirts, okay? These skirts, there's a lever down here at the bottom that you have to push in and pull down, and that releases the skirt. The skirt is hooked on the inner edge of the fender, and that hook up here is attached to that lever, okay? So as well, at each end of the skirt are a set of guides to guide the skirt onto the fender. So I've never had any problem with these skirts coming off. Once you get them on there, they are very, very tight, and you won't have any problems. Of course, you have to be aware now to line up the stainless here so that your skirt doesn't look funny. Okay, so be aware of those skirts. So that's it for the exterior like this. Like I said, I'm going to be putting together a box of various things that I'll be sending with you, and you'll want to be sure to look in the trunk for that box. Hope you enjoy the car as much as I have. I've had 10 years with this car, and it's just been a joy, quite honestly. This was a car very much like my first car, which that's what I wanted to get, and I dated my wife to be in a car like this. So I have had an emotional contact with the car. I don't know if that'll be the way you'll be, but just so you know, this car's meant a lot to me. All right, okay, thanks. We'll go on and do some other segments on different areas of the car for you. All right, thank you. Okay, we're looking at the engine here, Simon, and hope you can see everything here. But I have the springs in the hood are not installed. Okay, so we have to use this stick to hold the hood up, and I'll be showing you how to release the hood when we get into the interior of the car. But this stick will be in the car, and it'll be laying behind the driver's seat. And what I do is I just take it and put it up there. You can do it this way if you want to keep the hood down a little bit lower. You can set it up here for a little higher. You can even go up to a real high setting if you so need to. But for our purposes, we'll keep it like in the midpoint here. Okay, got a little pointer here. I'm going to point out some things to you. This cover on the battery, it's not attached. It's just there for looks. I'll put that in the box of things that I'm going to send to you. Okay, of course this is where you input the oil. The car takes 6 quarts of 30 weight oil plus a pint of a zinc additive to help with, since I've been using that zinc additive, haven't burned any oil in it, so it's very good on that. So 6 quarts of 30 weight oil, okay? The dipstick is down here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's down here just to the right of the battery. Okay, I don't think there's anything else that of importance that you need to know. The hoses and the belts on the car only a few years old. And oh, I wanted to mention on the oil change, I had it last changed in June. I try to change it every 3,000 miles. I probably have maybe 1,000 miles, so you're okay as far as an upcoming oil change. I want to also point out, if you can see it, the power steering is over here, so you need to check periodically. You need to check the fluid level in your power steering. Okay, I think that's it. Go on. All right, Simon, want to show you how to open the doors. This is a little bit tricky. Hopefully, maybe you can have a popper system installed. I was always on my priority list, but I never got around to it. So, ideally, the windows are down. You just reach in and open the latch on the door. Okay. You can also reach in and you can operate the windows. You can operate the windows here if you want to, that way also. But you have to reach in through the window. Now, if the windows are up, there are no locks on the doors. But if you got all the windows up, this wing needs to always be left open. And it will, because you can't lock it. I just put a piece of duct tape on here just so you, as a reminder, okay, you would open the wing and that would give you access to the door handle. All right? So that's how you get in and out of the car. Okay, let's look at the trunk now. I'll show you where the trunk release button is in the car. It is an electronic release, and I'll cover that when we get into the car. We also have a manual release, and you'll understand why. Just in case your battery's dead or for some reason the electrical components are not working in the car. But when you get the trunk popped up a little bit, it'll be popped up like this. You have to open it by putting your fingers on each side, because obviously there's nothing to grab hold of. Pull it on up, and this clicks in. This is a very sturdy trunk support. Okay. Now, Olivia, you're gonna have, I didn't mention this to you, you're gonna have to come around here now and point it down to the trunk. Got her?
Yeah.
Okay. When this car was manufactured, the gas fill was right here.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But due to customization of the car, that was filled in, and you have to
Wait a
open.
minute.
I'm sorry.
Let me get over here.
Got me?
Okay.
You have to open this flap in the trunk, open it up, and there's your gas fill. So just open it up, fill it with gas. It takes unleaded gas, so just have to be careful not to overflow the gas fill, because it'll obviously go on your carpet. The jack bag, that's which I'm going to include. There is a floor jack in that bag, and a couple tools in the event you would have a spare or a flat tire. I think, I don't even know if I've ever used it, quite honestly. I don't recall, maybe once. But that is there's a floor jack in that bag. Okay, it's your spare tire with this cover. It's a black wall spare tire, so it's not a white wall tire. So that's pretty much it for the trunk. Now when you need to close the trunk lid, you raise up, you hear it click, and it will come down and close. And now once again, I try not to slam things. I will push it like that, and that will close it. Okay, Simon, now we're gonna go to the interior of the car here, and I gotta make sure I got enough light. I hope you can see everything. Over on the very far right is where a clock was originally in the car. That's the dash is pretty much stock, so that's where a clock was located. Okay, well, when I replaced all the gauges with electronic gauges from Autometer, I put a tachometer in there instead of a clock. So you got a tach. Okay, just so you know, when you first start the car up and it's cold, it's going to idle upwards of 1200 or so RPM. It will calm down. You can, after a little while, you can kick it and take it down. And normally idle RPM should be about 800. Okay. Want to point out some controls here to you. Of course, this is the hood release that I mentioned earlier. Okay. Also want to mention, when closing the hood and the trunk, well, you'll see in the video on the trunk, but on the hood, I don't slam it. I've never slammed the hood. You let it down and then press it down with your arm. Okay. But anyway, that's the hood release. You've got some controls here. This button here is a regular horn on the car. This button here is, if I can push it, let me try it. Well, I can't get it, but it's an Ooga horn. Okay. These three LED lights here are your turn signal lights. Left turn, right turn, and the center one is your bright and dim light. Okay. Now underneath here, underneath the dash, there are three buttons, three controls. The one on the far right controls your wipers. Now those wipers are vacuum driven, so they're not very useful, quite honestly. I generally just try to keep a coat of Rain-X on the windshield. That seems to work best, but they do operate. Okay. The next button over should be a toggle switch, and that turns your electric fan on and off. I've got an electric fan installed, a push fan, on the radiator. Now I just leave it on all the time, so every time I start the car up, that fan comes on. And the car runs very cool. I think this is the water temperature right in here, and we generally run around 160, 170, somewhere in there. Very cool, very cool. Okay. The far left control button is your trunk release. That's your electric trunk release. And when you go to release the trunk lid, it may take you a couple times for the trunk lid to release. So you may have to push it a couple times, go see if the trunk lid's released. If not, come back, push it a couple times more. It will release. Now, if for some reason your electrical system fails, dead battery, whatever, there is a, I hope you can see this, behind the driver's seat here, there is a manual lever, and that is the manual trunk release lever. I had that installed because obviously if my electrical system would fail and I needed to add gas, I had to get access to the trunk. So that's where the manual lever is. The trunk prop or stick that I told you about, I'll be laying it back here behind the driver's seat. So I mentioned in the specification sheet, the emergency brake right here does work, but I don't have a release handle on it. So if I ever engaged the emergency brake, I wouldn't know how to release it. I'm sure there's a way to do that, but I didn't know how to do it. Okay, so oh, I might mention this little mechanism here on the dash. I'll put that in the box just to be safe. That's just a magnetized piece. That's a prism, and that is to be used in case you would pull up to an overhead stoplight and you pulled up too far, and because of the sun visor you can't see the stoplight. Well, you'll be able to see it in this prism. That was an option on cars in the States here back in the late 40s and 50s, and they're still available. And so when I installed the sun visor, I got a prism. Really, I've only had to depend on it a couple times, but nice to have if in fact you pull under that stoplight too far. Okay, well, I think that's all I wanted to show you inside that I think maybe you need to know.